And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today I'm going to do something that is kind of something I very rarely do, and that's take another look at a game that initially I gave a negative review to. I gave a negative review to Oh My Goods when I first reviewed it 2 years ago. I thought that the game had a few problems with it. The designer emailed or posted on my thread and said, here are rules that we've changed to fix that. And I was like, well, okay, but you got your first chance. And this has happened with many different games that I've reviewed. However, the designer is Alexander Pfister, who has since been widely renowned, and I pretty much like every game that he comes out with. I play his games, I'm like, these are fantastic. And so I got a copy of the new game with the new rules. The game's pretty much the exact same game, just the new rules. And I said, yeah, you know what? I'll give it a whirl. And you know what? Those rules really drastically changed this game, changing my review from a negative one to a positive one. Now, if you've never played the game before, that's okay. Here's how it plays. The goal of Oh My Goods is to get the most points. And you're going to do that by building many buildings. Many buildings are worth points. This one here is worth 3 points. There are assistants that you can hire, which are also worth points. And at the end of the game, money that you have, you're going to turn in 5 money for 1 victory point. Now, how are you doing this? Each person's going to start with 1 building. Here, I got a char burner here. And on this building, you'll notice these cards. These cards during the course of the game might act as a resource. This one might be a wheat resource, or this might be the mill, so they can act as a building or a resource. But when they're placed in a building like this, they are the resource of that building. In this case, it's coal, and this coal is worth 1 coin. So if I need to spend money, I can discard 3 of these cards here to get 1 coin. If, as the game goes by, I build this building and get cards on top of this one, I have bread, these are going to be worth 4 coins each as I spend them. So that's really useful to get these better buildings on the board. Each round of the game, players are going to be trying to build a building if possible and producing things with their worker. Everyone starts with 1 worker, and you can get assistants who aren't as good as your worker, but they do help. When you use your worker, you're going to be placing that worker under a building. That worker then is going to be using the resources to make that good there. So you can see, for example, here to make a coal, I need to spend 2 cotton and a wood to make a coal. So you're going to have a handful of cards, and at the beginning of every turn, you can discard as many cards as you want and draw back up to that same amount, and then everybody draws 2 more cards. So you're always going to have a decent amount of cards. Then some cards are going to be turned over from the deck for everybody. These are kind of mutual resources everybody has. And you're going to do this until you see some suns. So if I flip this one over, no sun on that. I flip this one over, there's half of a sun there. I flip another one over, no sun on this one. I flip another one over, still no sun. I flip this one over, no sun. This is a pretty good round. No sun on a coal. Another brick with no sun. This is a great one. Here is another half sun. So now we have a full sun, 2 half suns together, and everyone has access to 3 bricks, 2 wood, 2 cotton, and 1 coal. Well, this is great for me because I need 2 cotton and 1 wood. I already have it. So I'm going to put my worker here because this is going to happen. Now, if I'm missing a resource, I can pad those resources from my hand. I can also put the worker here and have him do a sloppy job, which means I need 1 less resource. But then he's going to produce 1 less good. But I don't need to do that. So everyone's going to assign their worker. Everyone's also going to decide what building they might want to build. I'm probably not going to build this one because it costs 17 coins, and I have 7 coins here to start with. But I might build this weaving mill, which will cost 5 coins. So I'll place that face down. Then, after everyone has decided where their worker is going to go, you're then going to turn over the cards again until you have another full sun. Now, you're seeing a ton of cards being turned over here. Well, only 3 were turned over that time. And if I needed a lot of coal for my buildings, this would probably not be useful. So then, I am going to say, here's the 2 cotton, here's the 1 wood. I'm going to produce 2 goods. We add 2 goods here with my worker. I can then also use the combo here and add as much wood from my hand to get more coal. So I look at my hand, and here's the cards in my hand, and I have 2 more wood in my hand. I can take both of those and put them down. So you can see the combos you have will make things better. Now this is a starting building. This bakery here, for example, it needs 2 coal and 3 bricks to make 1 bread, which will be worth 4 money to spend. That's very handy. But then coal and grain, if I bring 2 of those over, they will turn into 2 more bread. So I could bring over a coal here from the coal one, but I would need something that also made grain. I do that, and you can see you can start really piling up the resources. Now, once you've built enough buildings of different colors, instead of building a new building, you can take one of these assistants. These assistants will also work at buildings, producing 1 good, and they're also worth victory points at the end of the game. At the beginning of the game, you're going to flip these over kind of randomly, and they need different color buildings as you go on. This is going to continue. You're going to keep going through round after round until one person builds 8 buildings, and then that will end the game. However, on the very last turn of the game, everybody is going to be able to run all their buildings, and use all their bonuses, all their combos, whether they run the building or not. See, normally you can't use this combo unless you run the building, but on the final turn you can. So if you're building some really big buildings, you'll be able to run them on the final turn. There's also buildings that will give you special bonuses. This doesn't give you any kind of building you can run, but this says when I draw cards each turn, I'll be drawing 3 instead of 2. This one here basically says the cards are in the middle for everybody. I always have a cotton no matter what. But most of them are just going to be taking resources and turning those resources into a good that's worth money. And of course at the end of the game, for example here, shoes, let's say at the end of the game, I suddenly make 4 shoes. That's $32 divided by 5. That's going to be 6 points for me. Not to mention the building itself is worth 4 points. Most points is the winner of the game. The cards in this game look like every other Lookout game. So you can see here, it's not really that unique. You see the different buildings. It mostly comes down to the symbology down here, which is pretty easy to see. I almost wish they had made the suns like bigger, maybe make the card a brighter color, just so when you see them you're like, oh no. You're also probably going to want to play the game a couple times to see that, hey, look, there's a lot more wood in this deck than there is of other resources, and just to know the various counts of each of the resources and to know which buildings are in there. And then you have these assistants here, which are to decide it. So they're pretty good. You know, the artwork is, again, the same kind of as all the different Lookout games. So you might be wondering, what are these rules that changed? Well, there's a few minor rules that changed, but the 2 big ones that changed were at the beginning of your turn, you can discard as many cards as you want and draw them back up. And at the end, the final turn of the game, you can basically run all your buildings even if you don't have a worker at them. It basically letting you run your machine. See, my biggest problem with the game initially was you simply just build as many small buildings as you possibly could and won the game, finished the game off. Just quick build 8 buildings, and we're done. And whoever drew the smaller buildings was at an advantage. However, that's no longer a big thing because now you can find your exact engine that you want because you can discard your whole hand and draw new ones. So you're cycling through the cards a lot faster and finding the resources you need to run your buildings or find the buildings that you want to be able to build a better production chain. And then if you build that big giant building, at the end of the game, you have a chance to use it. That satisfies me. This is an engine building game that uses cards for multiple things. And with those rules changes, it becomes an excellent little card game. You might not have heard of it. I still think the name is dumb. But I like this theming, this changing things to other things. Not the theming, I guess the structure of the game, the flow. I like games where you say, ooh, I can make this little engine and I can rev up and make this into coal, then run this into this and make this into this, and then boom! And also take 30 minutes or so. That's good. It's a good combo, it's a good mix, and I'm very pleased that I'm able to say this game is really good now. Very enjoyable. Like I said, Mr. Pfister, widely renowned designer, this is not going to happen very often. I still think that the original game should not have been released with those rules. If there's problems, don't wait till they're fixed before you send them out. However, I also know that I got one of the very early copies and very few of those original rules were set out. So ignore my original review. Check this one. I mean, well, you're watching this review, so I guess there's that. But check out Oh My Goods. It is a lot of fun. Dice Tower Judgment approved!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Boys and girls, it's time to shut the door.